Okay, our samples have had overnight to dry, so everything should be ready to mark up and to store. So this part of the process is rather nice to just sit down and have a quiet time looking at the faces of your dried out sample slices and selecting which you would want to see on your thin section glass. And also looking at the materials, potential problems you might have in thin sectioning these materials. I mean, we've got a pretty tough assignment here because most of this site is set in sands and gravels. So we've got some very hard materials to get bonded to the glass and to stay on through the grinding process. But we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. Essentially, what you do is simply lay your sample slice on a piece of 7x5 plain glass, and you're looking to check for any problems. Did the sample warp when it dried? Is it rocking? Did you cut the slice that you want in a odd way? Do you need to tidy it up and square it up to the glass? You can look at that, because remember, you can always go back and trim to where you really want that slice to be and how you want it to look in final thin section. So once you've decided what face you want to see, you simply take your magic marker and you put an X on the face, and that tells you this is the face I want ground. And you can also see it grinding away, see the progress of that working on the grinding machine, because the X is going to grind away. So it's just a nice visible marker to see that that is working on the machine. On the back will go the site code and the profile number, and we'll just quickly do that, right? And that is it. That's all there is to do for this. And then you mark up all your slices accordingly. Let me quickly put you down on the floor so that you can have a look at how we left our sawing yesterday. Right, I'm just gonna take this camera and I'm gonna put you down on the floor to have a look down the line of the sample blocks and the sample slices. And what I usually do when I'm sawing is I'll select the face that I want for thin sectioning. When I saw, I'll look and I'll continue to saw till I see something exciting that will look good on the glass. And then I take that slice and I face it forward on the block, on the paper, so that I know when I come along to mark, this is the slice I want. I've already selected it, and you can see that I've already pre-marked these with X's. And they have their site details already written on the back. But it does save you some time. I mean, I'd always recommend sawing more than one slice just to give yourself an idea of, is there potentially something hidden in the block that I didn't see? If I take a second slice, I might get something better to look at. And again, if you still don't find what you want, and if you are the researcher who took this sample, continue to saw until you find what you feel best represents what you want to look at under the microscope. every slice brings you something different. It really does. So, I'll bring you back up to the stool. The last thing to do in this process is to mark up your bags with the details, site code, sample number, and anything else that was put on that sample for the researcher to tell them what it was. And I often do this the day that I saw. I'll mark up my bags so that when I come back in the morning of the next day, it's just a quick, fast putting away of the samples and marking my blocks, my sample slices. So that's it. Once your samples are bagged, my best recommendation is to store them in sealed plastic crates, which you can purchase from any DIY store. Back in the day, we used to do a crate for each researcher, and if they produce more than what one crate could take, you would label it box 1, box 2, or if not, sites on the outside of the plastic crate so that it was easily visible, the researcher and the sites contained within the box. And on goes the lid, and I always store it in a nice, cool, dry room. Even though those blocks are put into a sealed plastic bag, if you've got a nice, cool, humidity regulated room, preferably dry, those samples are going to store well in the long term. You can discuss within your group how long you'd wish to store samples. Usually when a PhD was finished with their work, their practical then sectioning, I would ask that they take their blocks with them to wherever they go next. Hopefully it's a job, but there never really is enough room to keep everybody's blocks in long-term storage. So that's another thing to keep aware of. We're going to move on now to the actual thin sectioning part of the process.